Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to have this two-part Dr. Mike show. Unbelievable, fantastic guest. My mentor, my sponsor family away from home when I was an academy cadet and graduate at the United States Air Force Academy, learning to become a military officer and instill in me the ethics and work ethics of being a patriot. We're going to be speaking with Mike Cegielski, Mike Cegielski, a Polish American who escaped from communist Poland. And we're going to tell that story in the first part of this podcast. And then the second part, we'll be talking about his escape, not just from Poland and to Denmark, but how he met his wife in Denmark and how he made it to America and became such an important figure in many people's lives, and telling his not just a heroic escape, but his hero story. Please tune in and look forward to this episode, two-part series with Mike Cegielski. Thank you very much. Well, welcome to another episode of the Dr. Mike Show. I am super excited to introduce an unbelievable individual, an unbelievable family who I've known for many, many years, and got introduced to. Part of this show is to talk about not just medicine and medicine topics with the Dr. Mike Show, but really it's about bringing in people with unbelievable, compelling stories. This gentleman fits that bill. An unbelievable, compelling story. And amazing to me, and I think many people don't appreciate it until you get a little bit older. I know certainly when I met this individual at the age of 18, I was ignorant and not very appreciative of the people around me as much as I am now as you grow older. And so this is a story that just needs to be told and has had an impact on my life, certainly through my 4 years at the Air Force Academy, the military academy in Colorado Springs, where I was first introduced to this family. And it's with a great honor and great pleasure for me to introduce my mentor from the academy days, a home away from home, to escape from the academy. They were my sponsor family, and not only a great Polish individual, but a great Polish American. I'd like to welcome to you Michael Cegielski, or as he goes by now as T-Mike Cegielski. Mike?
Hi. Thank you very much, first of all, for your kind words and the introduction, and thank you for inviting me. I'm a little bit puzzled by that. And also, this is the first one I'm doing podcast,
video podcast. Video, gonna immortalize you forever.
Something for my kids to look at.
And we have his wife here, and another, part of the story is her as well, and she'll pipe in from time to time. And important, I always say your name Bridget, just because it's the Americanized form. But you're Danish American, and really your name is spelled uniquely. How do you properly pronounce it?
Birgit.
Birgit.
Yeah.
Right. But I always, just like many lazy Americans, we sometimes just Bridget, but Birgit. So part of this story is just to really outline how important you had an impact on my life, and then you moved on. We had a period of time there where we were separated, and I'm glad we reconnected, and it's been a real blessing. But I like to start off with following this story of kind of what your origin is, and I think the best way to start this off is to say, why do you love America so much, and how did your parents influence you on that? And where were you and how did you get here?
Just as you mentioned, people having effect on our lives. You use the word mentor, you use these words. I believe that what we are is just like there's a story, about a turtle on a fence pole,
Okay.
and it's sitting there, and people ask how he got it. Somebody had to put that turtle there. So we get there not necessarily all by ourselves, but also with help of other people. And when you talk about the mentor, somebody who had great effect in your life, number one person I would say it was my father.
Your father.
Both my parents, but specifically my father.
What did your father do, and where was he?
My father, well, of course, I grew up in Poland, was born and raised in Poland, and my father was working as a office clerk in a telecommunications company.
And what year were you born in?
I was born in 1951.
And Poland at that time was
a communist country. It was member of Warsaw Pact, and I remember as a little kid listening always during Sunday dinners, this very loud discussions of the family. We have these family dinners every Sunday, gathering of my parents and my brother, my two sisters, and their husbands and wife and children. I was the last in the family. I was
right.
the difference between me and my older sister is 21 years.
Wow.
So they were always talking about things and very often about politics. And I know they were always recalling, especially my parents, recalling Poland when it was free before World War II.
Right, and you never knew what that was like.
No, only from what I heard from my parents. And I remember, of course, discussing when they were talking about the things that they used to be and the things they are now. And also I was aware of the fact that World War II, 4 years, they all spent in Siberian gulags.
Your parents?
My parents, my two sisters, and my brother.
I mean, that in and of itself can be a whole book. Your parents were in the gulag, and then obviously they survived.
Yeah.
And come back to their hometown, which was
Lvov, and it became part of the Soviet Union. Then they were kicked out from there and pushed to a town which used to be for 700 years German town, Breslau. Now it's Wrocław. So I was born in that town.
And you're sitting at these dinner tables, Sunday dinners, listening, learning, and the conversations were not in support of Mother Russia.
No, absolutely not. Russia or anything communist. That was one of the points of pride my dad would always make to his children, my older siblings, saying that we could have had better life if I joined Communist Party. But I haven't. Right. I can look straight in the mirror and not be ashamed. And we could have done much better if I was member of the Communist Party, which I knew, knowing what my friends, their parents who joined Communist Party, what their life was a little bit better than better. Yes.
And I remember you telling me stories. Tell me if this is true. When you were little, or I don't know, maybe you were in your teens, of you saying you and your brother, or maybe your family, was listening in the basement to Armed Forces Network at times with the curtains covered or the windows covered with curtains so you wouldn't get caught?
Okay, maybe not as dramatic, but the results could be. So what happened is listening to Radio Free Europe.
Radio Free Europe. Okay.
And not Armed Forces. Radio Free Europe and Radio Voice of America, which was broadcasted to all Central Europe, was illegal to listen. As a matter of fact, about a block away where my dad was working, in a top floor of the building, there was a jamming machine operated by military.
No kidding.
So when you were listening to the Radio Free Europe or Voice of America, it was not just, okay, I'm tuned in and I do my things and I listen. You sit out there because you hear this noise and you hardly can hear what that person is talking
Right.
about. So you have to move the dial a little bit, and you kind of
Keep
play,
fine-tuning it
keep
during the whole show.
fine-tuning through the show. You play mouse and cat
Right.
game with the guys that are trying somewhere to distort the sound and everything, so you wouldn't hear the message. So that's one part. And second part is right after World War II, of course, if you were caught doing this, that would be a physical harm. When I was growing up, the communists, not that it became any better, it's just that they gained control. They disarmed people. They
Right.
took all the leadership positions in anything that is involved with economy, schools, and news. So they could relax a little bit. So they didn't have to, and that's also after Stalin died. So it was a little bit more mellow kind of
They had the
version of communism.
territory. It was Russian-controlled Poland.
It was still Russian-controlled Poland, but if you were caught listening, or somebody find out that you listened to Radio Free Europe, Voice of America, whatever job you would have, you would lose, and you then find yourself working for something lesser. If you were a student in college, they would make sure that you didn't pass some test,
Right.
and you'd be kicked out, and then you become
So
laborer in a labor.
the same time you're
paradise.
learning from your family and these dinners and Radio Free America, the principles of democracy and freedom and love, your love for America, you're also realizing I have to be equally a good servant to communism in order not to get harmed.
Well, that's where you learn not to be a servant, but to avoid talking about what you feel, what you believe, and pay lip service as little as possible in classroom, in company of your friends, which are not really friends. When you have to be afraid of your friends, you don't know who they are. They are not really your friends.
Right.
But anyway, so you learn to live this double life. You go at home, you speak freely with your parents' family. You go outside the home, you have to do whatever there's officially acceptable.
Right.
You cannot talk about politics. You actually, let me give you an example. In 1968, late 60s, there was a fight between Russians and Chinese on a Ussuri River on the border between China and Soviet Union. And I assumed that guy that asked question of our history professor in high school provoke him. Maybe they were already suspecting that this guy is kind of not good, trusty commie or whatever, that just want to test it. The student gets up and asks professor, how is it possible that two communist countries are fighting each other? That we hear about it. Well, he didn't want to answer that question because of fear that there may be some kind of repercussion. So he thought that he will answer with the joke. And he said, I have not listened to Radio Free Europe today, so I don't know.
Oh, my gosh.
Next day, he was no longer professor. I met him about half year later on the street. And he said, well, I got kicked out. And the good thing about it is that now I am working in a factory. I lost license to teach. I am working in a factory with my hands. The good thing about it is that now when my daughter will be applying for college, she will get the points for being member of the working class.
Right.
And it's not a joke. That's how it was. That's
Right.
how you get to college. You would pass the test, and then they'll give you points for being member if your parents were in the Communist Party,
Right.
if they were in the military, the police, if they were workers, because all the other side, it was so-called working intelligentsia.
Right.
So working intelligentsia didn't get any point.
So so now, leading into getting points and being a good communist, even though at home you're learning about paying lip service
Yep.
during the day, but at night you're practicing to be a
Normal person.
a normal person, a democratically free person is what you desire. and getting points, and and you're in high school, and these instructors at some point, how did you realize I need to work on something to get out of communist Poland, and what was that transition of the getting into sports and getting into this role with the intention of what you were going to do down the future?
Yeah. So my parents' intentions were not to teach me all those things that they thought was right and then see me escaping from Poland. Right. Because escape was the only way out. You could not say, okay, I want to immigrate, so give me my passport, I want to go to America. Right. That didn't happen. The only way to get out was either being a member of the athletic, some kind of sports or cultural exchange or whatever, or there were some small abilities for students to travel, very small group. If you earn somehow something that they would want to reward you for, you could travel abroad. So those were the only things that you could do.
In order for you to escape from Poland,
you have to break out.
You had to get on some authorized trip out of the border.
Exactly. So my parents' intention was to raise me, and as my oldest sister reminded me after I escaped, your parents didn't teach you, she was very angry about it, that I escaped, because she grew up in Poland that gained status as a free country. After 900 some years, Poland disappeared from map of Europe for 123 years. And then as a result of World War I, again reappeared on the map. And that was euphoria in Poland. It was not just patriotism, it was nationalism. Everybody was happy. Finally, they have Poland again.
The borders are back.
That's how she grew up.
Right.
So for her, Poland, good or bad or wrong or right, was Poland. That was the motherland.
Right.
So my parents wanted me to be patriotic Pole, like my brother, my two sisters. You work here, you stay here, and maybe someday there will be time where you can make a difference. So my sister, when I escaped, got angry because she thought that I went easy way. I went for good life, where my parents, as a parent, raised me. She said, your place is here in Poland. Try to change it. And I accept that. She was
angry because she thought your parents were raising you to help continue the change.
And they raised me to escape.
Poland. Right.
Because what happened is, now when I'm dealing with this dual life, one official outside home and one another, I'm looking around and I start hating everything around me. Because I'm listening to Radio Free Europe. I'm listening to Voice of America. I look at the miserable life that my family has. I'm listening to my parents talking about how good life they had before World War II, before communists came in. And I said, I don't want to spend the rest of my life like they do. That was added to a dream of a little boy that didn't know anything about politics, but was reading adventure books that my dad would still buy. Poland allowed books like Kirwood, Hunter of Wolves, Hunter of Gold, Hunter of Adventure, Mark Twain. All those adventure books about Wild West.
Yeah, and so you're reading them.
I'm reading them. And as a little boy, before even thinking about politics, my dream is Indians, cowboys.
Did you read any John Wayne?
Well, I saw the movies.
Yeah, okay.
There was some. But I want to live in the Wild West. That's my dream. So now when I'm in high school, now I'm learning history. I'm learning from my parents how it was. So that dream now is evolving into obsession. By the time I was graduating from high school, I was obsessed with getting out of there.
But you couldn't tell anyone this. You're the double life of being the best student and best communist.
Yeah. Well, not communist, or just
lip service.
Yes, pay lip service. At home, my parents, they knew that because I would tell my parents, someday I'm going to escape. Well, this was such an impossible dream. that everybody was, yeah, right.
Well,
That's going to happen.
let's go to that though, because that really is what I think is your part of your hero story, your call to action. You have this dream; it's impossible to escape. You wrote an amazing, quick little blurb about that night, that day, which is really the foundation of your book that you're talking about, that we'll mention towards the end here, as the last Polish Mohican, which I love the title, absolutely fantastic title. But the genesis of it is this day. No one in your family knows, I think, except your brother, right?
Yep.
And you didn't tell your mom or your dad. You're now in a position where you have an opportunity because you got on an Olympic team as a sprinter.
And that was my brother's advice.
Was your brother's advice?
He said, there's no way you're going to escape. You cannot run through the border, which is mined between East Germany and West Germany, the walls and all that stuff. This will never happen. So sport is the only thing. And at that time, I had a God-given talent for sprint, for fast run. And in my grammar school, I was number one in grammar school. In the high school, I set the record. So my brother says, try sport. That may be your ticket out.
Right.
So when I became college student, I took it seriously. And I joined athletic club in my college. And 3 years later, dream came true. What happened?
Tell that story, because it's so powerful. People need to hear this. I mean, briefly, you can talk, because only your brother knows you're going to leave on this day. You get a ticket or a way out, but you have to put some things in place, like you have to request your high school diploma.
Okay.
Because some of these things people don't understand nowadays, how important these things were in an effort to escape.
Yeah.
But they don't, Americans and now me, I don't realize the impact of how important it was to have certain documents, but how also it could have raised a red flag and suspicion from others.
Yeah. So number one thing, as I joined the athletic club, I worked really hard at it, twice a day, 5 days a week, and then on Sundays, one longer training session. And I made it to the team being prepared for Olympics in Munich, 100-meter dash. 1972.
72, right.
Yes. Because of that,
100-meter
dash.
That
I was a sprinter. And that was recognized at my college. And because of that, I could apply for a trip that was reserved for special people.
Right.
For special people to Denmark and then East Germany. That was this combined. I applied for this in the fall, not knowing yet what else is going to happen later on, and not even knowing the dates for things that all came to play. So I was granted this. I'd say, okay, you're going to go on that 2-week trip. One trip to Denmark and then East Germany.
Right.
The same time, now I am on a team, and everything else is out of my control because they decide when the competitions are, qualifying competition, and so on.
For the Olympics,
yes. And Olympics were in August. My trip to Denmark is August 4th.
Right. This is so,
and guess
talk
what
about
now?
a God-given gift of timing.
So somebody loves me out there.
Yes.
I truly believe that. I'm not saying it for fun or anything. I've met that summer 4 Dutch students, and I knew that there were some things I would like to have with me, some little memorabilia, pictures, some stuff that I have at home now, some things that I could prove how communists were using sports for propaganda, official documents. And I trusted these 4 people that came to visit Poland. They were tourists, and I trusted them on one of the summer camps for sports.
Right.
And I told them the story that I am going to escape. Would you be willing to smuggle for me some of those
Now this,
things?
I've not heard this.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. Okay.
So they said yes.
Wow.
And they took the thing. So now they are in Holland, in Netherlands. I'm in Poland without these things. There's one more document I need to have. That document is high school diploma.
Right.
Because I am in college, but in Poland, the law is that if you are accepted to college, they take your diploma, high school diploma, and they keep it, and then you will get it together with graduation papers when you get your master's. At that time, those masters was the only way.
Right.
All right. So about 10 days a week prior to the trip, I go to dean's office, talk to secretary, and I said, well, because of my Olympic association, they need something for my
You kind of
high school
play
diploma.
dumb, and you come to, hey, I need my thing.
I just need to take that. They're going to do some copy or whatever, and I will bring it back.
Right.
Never did.
Yeah.
I traveled with this document on me.
Which could have been...
if somebody did the search on a border and find it, it will be clear, okay, he is not a tourist. He's not going there for fun. He is in midst of escape.
Right.
So that's one thing. Second thing now, I learn that the competition that will decide on who is going to Munich.
Right.
I'm on a group being prepared. But
Right.
who is going is the date that the trip to Denmark is.
Right. So the assumption is
So
you're not going to go on this Denmark trip anymore. Your coach probably says, oh.
They don't know about it. Nobody knows about
so
it
no-
except the organizers. I mean, this is before the computers. and all
Right. So
that.
the coach on the team doesn't even know you've
Nobody.
been approved for a trip.
Absolutely. No. My brother. And the people that I don't even know who they are somewhere who decide about it, because it is just couple students from my university, couple from some other town. There was
Right.
about 27 of us, and there were only 4 from my town. Everybody else from
And
somewhere
you
else.
have your diploma,
Right.
and you now have a date
So I have
for
my-
the Olympic trials too. And
At
you're
the
like,
same day.
what are you going to do?
So I'm leaving home, telling my parents goodbye. I'm going for the trials.
Yeah. So your parents, you're telling them you're going for the Olympic
Yeah, I'm
trials.
going for the competition, and leave. Go to Warsaw, stay overnight. In the morning, have to report to the student association office, which is organizing this trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in the room with large group of people, and they said, we will be calling you alphabetically, and you go, and we will give you passport, because you're not allowed to have in communist Poland, you could not have a passport. It was property of the government.
Right.
If you travel, you are given that, and within 48 hours upon return, you have to return it.
They have
or
your
the 5 years of
passport.
jail.
You're waiting for your name call. Your heart must
Yeah.
be pounding.
Well, but you have to stay cool.
Stay cool.
You cannot show
You're
it.
a
I mean,
cool
right? So I'm
cucumber.
sitting over there. My name starts with C. And before they called me, there are already 3 people that they called the name and not given passport. They said, please follow to another room.
Oh no.
So they find something that prevented them from getting that passport. They are not going. So I'm sitting over there. I mean, everything is, all the bridges, everything burned behind me.
Right.
So
'Cause
I'm
now,
sitting
now
up-
if you get caught,
Yeah,
you're
no kidding.
You're,
So I'm sitting over there. They call my name. Good. Passport is there. So I go for my last walk around the old town in Warsaw.
you have your passport.
3 o'clock, everybody reports to this place, and we are going to the train station. And now we start this train station to Berlin. We landed, we were in Berlin about probably 10 o'clock at
But
night.
now you think you got your diploma, you got your passport. No one knows you're on this train except
and my
maybe your
coach is looking for me now.
And now your coach is, as you learn later, is looking for you.
Yeah.
They can't find you because you're supposed to be going to these
Calling
trials.
my parents.
Calling
I'm
parents.
missing person now.
Right. And you think you're on the train and you're, at this point, you're almost free and clear. But
They're
then
not. I still
then
have
you
to
re-
go through East Germany.
Right. But then what happens when it stops? Tell
Well,
that story.
Okay, so there's a border between East Germany and Poland, another communist country.
Right.
There's somewhere in the forest, train stops, and suddenly the guys coming with dogs and machine guns and all that border patrol. They're checking under the train if nobody's hanging up there. They're going through everything, checking people's passports.
Right.
And train rolls again.
They checked your passport.
They check the passport.
And
no any search or anything. I am looking like I am traveling a tourist. I have a bottle of vodka with me, which was known that people go. You buy vodka for 50 cents in Poland, sell it for 7 abroad, and buy a T-shirt, polo shirt for that
And that's what
money,
you did.
and you then double that.
Right.
So that I'm pretending like I'm one of those that
Right.
want to enrich myself. I also have a little hand-carved chess set, which also was another item sought in the
By the
West.
tourists,
There
yeah.
were people were buying. So I had that too. Like, I'm going to make money. That's the reason I'm going up there, blah, blah.
Right.
So anyway, we landed at 10 o'clock in Berlin. Then we had some snack place. We ate the soup and then back to another train.
So now this is
Still East Germany.
Your hero story is continuing. I mean, this is the long, because it's not just one
It's not
episode.
hero, it's either
It is.
full or
You're either you may be a
or
fool,
desperate.
But again, you get on another train and then you get to like a ferry.
Yes.
And you still don't think
we're
you
going
think
to
you're free, but
Rostock.
you're still not.
Yes. So we're coming to Rostock, and train is now coming to the ramp, and I would say probably 4 feet above the ground.
How many hours has passed now
We are around midnight.
since you left? And you know
Yes.
now people
and they
are
are
looking
looking
for you.
me.
No one knows
But
where
I
you're
don't
at.
know it. I know that they will be
Right.
looking for me, but I don't know what they are doing.
Right.
Thank God, no computers, no stuff that time.
Right.
Only, whatever they
Telephones.
had. So
So you come up, roll up on this
on
high
it,
platform.
and they turn the lights on, and it's brighter than daylight. And again, dogs are coming in, the East German guards coming in. This time they enter the compartments
And
and,
now
start
you're
knocking the walls of the
Why do they do
train,
that?
because there was apparently some space that you could crawl in somehow and hide. I mean, they check all of this.
Did they search you?
No.
Still didn't search.
So finally, trains start going on a ferry boat that is going now from East Germany to Denmark.
The train actually pulled onto the ferry.
Pulls on a train, and they say, okay, when we stop, then there will be a signal and everybody can go upstairs. There will be coffee or whatever. You can sit just like on a ferry boat
Right.
in Europe. So I am getting off that train now, going upstairs, and I'm thinking, and the ferry is already in motion.
Right.
I'm thinking, okay, I'm free. I get on the deck and I look, and there's a bloody East German flag.
It's an
on
East
it.
German flag
I'm
on the
still-
very.
They still can get me. They still can get
It's
me
a
on that
flagged
boat.
communist
East,
boat. Yeah,
Communist
yeah,
East German boat. So
And you're a cool
I'm sitting
cucumber. You're
cool,
sitting
like-
there and
yeah, like
with your
nothing
chest
happened.
set and
Yep.
your bottle of vodka
Right.
and a tourist T-shirt.
And I am sitting there, and then they tell us go back to the train. We are coming to
The
port in Denmark.
Denmark.
The train gets off, and it's still dark. I remember just getting bright sunrise. Getting off that train, and then there's a Danish conductor coming in asking for passports. I'm giving a passport, and I look outside the window, and I always tell that moment I discovered that world has colors.
Yes, I remember you telling me this.
Because
everything was always
you,
gray.
You live for 21 years. I live in a country where colors were gray, black, and dirty white. Obviously, there were other colors too, but it was so meager, and everything was just gray,
Right.
just gray. And all of a sudden, I look, even asphalt on a road that was next to the train track was looking different, was brighter.
It's like bright black.
Everything was different. So with all of this, I was totally exhausted, and I fell asleep.
So you get out. You obviously are smiling.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Where did you fall asleep? Where did you go?
right down a train, and we are still going to Copenhagen.
Oh, okay.
We are driving.
But
we are not,
now at this point, I think I'm free.
now I am free.
Now you are
I'm in
free.
Denmark.
I
am free.
No return.
No return.
They can't stop the train now.
No. They have completely.
Yeah, it's a
away.
Danish conductor.
There's
It's all
Denmark. I'm in Denmark.
You're-
So I fell asleep. Early in the morning, we arrived in Copenhagen. and greeted by the person who was our guide over there. And the whole group now goes off to probably it was one of, they call it hostels for students, because it looked like apartment building. It was not looking like a hotel, but we'll get our rooms and all this stuff. And there I met two British, right in the lobby as we were checking in, two British teachers. There were two girls, and I started to talk a little bit with them. And they said, well, what do you do tonight? I said, well, I don't know. I have to ask the people that are taking care of us.
Right.
And I asked, they said, well, we do nothing, no schedule for today. I said, well, can I go with these two British girls? They invited me to pub for a beer.
Yeah.
And we went. And during discussion over there, again, I'm trusting, because now I'm in Denmark, right? But I also made the plan that I will not escape the day that I arrive. The reason for it was in Radio Free Europe, I've heard the story of a guy named Kudirka, who is Lithuanian sailor, who jumped somewhere that was at the sea, high seas, American ship and a Russian ship.
Right.
He jumped and swam to the American ship, and the captain sold him for a bottle of vodka back to the Soviets.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't want to be near any group that could grab me and take me back.
Take you back.
So I'm not going to do it in the beginning. I'm going to do it at the end, the last day.
Right.
So
how long was the trip?
A week over there.
So
I'm with the whole group playing like I'm, just like everybody else.
Right.
And the British girls, the first night that I was over there in that pub, I trusted them. I said, do you know where American embassy is? Because I am going to defect. I want to make my dash.
You rolled the dice that you trust these two people.
Yes. My goal is not to live in Denmark. This is just for me.
Right.
Place where I get free. America is my goal. And
become a cowboy.
Yeah. So here they find out, and next day we met again. We had always couple hours off between those official things that we went to see castle and some. And they said, we know where it is, and I still remember Dag Hammarskjöld Alley. That's the address to American Embassy.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had a couple days later, we had some time off, and they said, we will take you over there.
The two British ladies.
Because they were whole week in.
Are you still friends with them? Do you still?
No.
No, you don't know them.
No.
Oh.
No. So
fate. There's someone watching out. They just happen to be in the lobby the first day you get there.
Yeah.
And you say hi to them.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, he must be a good-looking guy. I'll invite you out to a pub.
I don't know about that. Anyway, so they took me to American Embassy.
On the last day?
No. I'm going because I need to find out how I do it. I also don't want anybody to think that I came over, was overwhelmed by the wealth, the good-looking things, and decided to escape.
Right.
I wanted them to know that this was planned.
Right.
But I'm waiting for the last moment to execute the last part of it.
So you drive by there with these ladies?
Girls. We are going to the rainy day. I remember horrible weather. We are coming in, and Marine sitting by. This is before all the crazy things that we are facing now. The door opens. There's a Marine sitting with the desk by the door. I tell him what I'm here for. He said, sit down here at the chair and wait. And about half an hour later, they called me. I go to a room that is about this size without any pictures.
So you just call you tell them, I'm here to defect. I want to go to America.
Yeah. And a lady comes in, and I tell her my story. And he said, well, you cannot just, I guess I was not important enough. I was not a MiG pilot or something like this. So she said, what you need to do is this is the card, the business card. That's the office of the Danish. It's not like cops police. It's something internal, whatever.
Danish State
you go
Department.
over there when you defect. When you decide to do that, this is the address you need to run.
So the American embassy wouldn't take you.
No. They said this is not the procedure. Like I said, if I was saying I am the MiG pilot or whatever, it'd be a different story. Mm-hmm. But I'm just a runner. So fine. So doing all this, the tourist stuff. I already know what my plan is, what I'm going to do. I have one more day before, and we have time, the British girls, and we are going to this Danish place, which is not far away from Tivoli Garden in Copenhagen.
Okay.
I walk in, and again, they say, wait for a second. I wait
You
for
said
about
goodbye
30
to
minutes.
the British
they
girls?
are waiting for me.
Oh, yeah.
I
You're
go
so
to
lucky.
the room. I'm going to the room, sitting. The guy comes in, and I'm telling my story. And he said, well, I said, tomorrow is the day that they are leaving, and that's where I'm going to escape. But I want you to know that this is not like impulsive thing. That was all planned.
Right.
And he tells me, okay, this is all nice, but Poland is one of the largest producers of coal in Europe at that time, selling coal to Denmark. We are buying it, and they put pressure on our government. There were a lot of instances where people from Poland there was a boat for Christmas and New Year on the Baltic Sea, and would come only like within yards from the Copenhagen harbor, so you could see the skyline in the New Year. You didn't have to have a passport for that. And then go back to Poland. That was one of the privileged trips too. And on one of those, 90-some people jumped in the water in January to Baltic Sea and swam to the shore and were rescued to escape.
Right.
So Poles got annoyed by this, and they put the pressure on Danes. They said, no more. We don't want this to happen. So the guy says, I cannot guarantee you that you're going to be given political asylum.
So what did you think? What happened?
I almost fell apart. I said, I didn't expect anybody to stand here with open arms, but I'll go, send me to wherever other non-communist country is. My goal is United States. But if you guys put me on a train back to Poland, I will not arrive alive. Yeah. No, I will not arrive alive.
You will not arrive.
I would do it.
You can't go back.
So I cannot go back. I said, well, then you decide. Next day.
The guy says, okay, well, you decide.
And I go back, join the rest of the group. I remember we went to see the castle in Copenhagen that last afternoon.
But going through your head all this time, you must be thinking.
Yeah, I know what I want to do, but it really, now I'm worrying.
Because the U.S. Embassy turns you away, the Danish Embassy turns you away.
Yeah. So next morning, we are all gathering in this common area for breakfast. And they are giving us little packages for the road, for the trip on a train now to East Germany. And I'm sitting at the table with two guys that were students of law, that everybody knew those were the commies that were watching.
They were the political officers.
They were political officers. That's one of the things was they were lawyers. I mean, lawyers to be. They were students.
Right.
In Poland, you would not go, in communist Poland, you would not be allowed to study if you were not commie.
Right.
I mean, law has to be under control, right?
Right.
So they knew what they were doing. So anyway, there's two brothers. And I'm always hanging around them too, because that's my protection. Already from the trip to Warsaw, I made sure that I was sitting with them in the same compartment, because I said to myself, if anybody's going to get searched, it's not going to be them.
Right, so you want to be near them.
So I would be near them. And it was also a good thing because they happened to be from my hometown. So that was another alibi I had to hanging around them, because we are all from the same town, right?
Right.
So anyway, we are sitting at the breakfast, and one of them said, I don't know if this is a joke or that they went for last moment shopping, but two people are missing. But please don't tell to anybody.
You hear
they
this?
They are telling to me.
To you, yeah.
And I said, no, of course not. They probably went shopping, whatever. So then bus is coming over, picking us up. These two are still missing. We are going to the train station. We are in train station. These guys are looking worried.
You're on the bus.
I'm on a bus.
You're getting ready to go on this train.
Getting back to commie East Germany. So there's a train station. And train station, then go to platform, you go steps down. We all going in a kind of like a file. I am hanging back with those two brothers who are watching everybody going forward.
Right. Worried about the two missing
Yes,
people.
they already, I can see this on their faces. If these two jokers are not showing up, this is the last trip we ever had.
Right.
Because that was their bonus.
Right.
When we had $7 each, that's what they gave us to allow us to exchange for shopping. These people were buying shirts. They were buying mini recorders for $30, $40. So that was a payoff that communists were doing for people that were controlling the population.
So what happens next?
So the last one, he said, Mike, why don't you go with, because his brother now goes in front, and he said, Mike, go with everybody. You'll be the last one to the train. I need to make a phone call to Polish embassy to report that two are missing. I said, no problem. So he goes to this set of telephone booths.
Right.
To the right.
His brother's walking ahead.
His brother going ahead. I am the last one. I made about 1/3 down and turned, and there's my fastest run I done in my life.
Fastest sprint you ever made. I tell this story.
And that was with the little bag I had with just a couple shorts and stuff.
Do you think they saw you?
No.
So you literally sprinted?
I ran across the street to Tivoli Garden, and then to the right to where the place is where I was day earlier.
Back to
that police
the police
station.
the Danish State Department or whatever it was.
So I go over there, and it's weekend.
So you literally sprint out, and this is what I always want to tell people and my patients and everyone. This is why we do. I mean, your story instills in me an unbelievable faith in, a God, an unbelievable faith to help other people out. Two random British women helping you. And that people should never give up either. Patients should never give up because there's always a way to seek a better way. And sometimes you just literally have to sprint to get out of the situation you're in.
But there's one more.
And you have to have some luck too.
It's not only this. I thought very often, how come? Why me? Why I? And I really, and she can attest to this, a lot of unusual things in my life happened. The lucky things happen, what people call lucky. And I always believe that's a blessing. And I always been asking myself, why? And I think this is maybe some token payback in good what happened to my family. Because they suffered in Siberia so badly, and my brother, my two sisters had a really crappy life, and I think that maybe I was blessed, as maybe through my luck, what people call, I was blessed to enjoy different life that they had, and that's. So
you knock on the Danish door. Yeah, and then when
and it's weekend,
and you're free. It's weekend.
It's a weekend.
Who's there?
There's a guy coming over. He said, sit down, and they come back, and they said, I'll take you now to a place where it's like, looks like apartment building, but there's a guard. And you get the room, and you wait till Monday. Monday, somebody will come in the morning, pick you up, and you come here for interrogation. So they take me there. I am in the room, and they tell you breakfast is this time in this dining place, lunch is this time, and I'm looking, and there are a whole bunch of other people, and I find the two people that were on the trip that were missing.
The two people that were missing are there with you?
Yes. The guy was from Warsaw, the girl was from Krakow.
Okay, everyone, that was the end of the first part of our podcast. Part 2 is going to talk about his arrival in Denmark, the meeting of his wife, and what he did and how he got to America and became an officer in the United States Air Force, and when I first met him and crossed paths and the impact that had. And we're going to have a special feature during the second part where we're going to talk to his kids and what impact they've had on him. Don't miss it. We look forward to you tuning in. Thank you very much.